We're good.
Hi, everyone. Welcome as you're all coming in. Lori, you should be able to share your screen. Let me know if you cannot. Hi, everybody. Sorry for the delay. Apologize.
Actually, let me get my screen up here. That would have been a good thing to do first.
That's all right.
Okay, wait a minute. Where are we? Slideshow.
Take your time. Hello, everyone. It's Marcy here again. I hope you've been following along with us today. We have had some amazing sessions. This one also will be amazing with the great Lori Hamm. We love Lori. Lori, how are you?
Great. I'm so excited to be part of this. What a fantastic concept, and the presentations have been amazing.
Well, we're so happy to have you. If you don't know Lori, she's very involved in the notary community, always has been in her previous job. She's recently retired, but truthfully, she's not really retired. She's still doing all the notary things. A wealth of information regarding notary law and apostees, and now with the Guild. And I don't want to take away from any of this, and I know she has a lot to go over. So welcome. We're going to do some interactive stuff here. Lori's happy to answer any questions that you have. You can put stuff in the chat. You can put it in the Q&A. I'm going to bounce off of here so Lori gets started. Lori, it's all you.
Thanks, Marcy. I'm just realizing that the way I've done the screen, and I hope everybody can see this, I can't see the chat. So I am going to need somebody to kind of help me a little later on when we do this activity that I
will help
planned.
you. Absolutely. I'm here for you.
You're awesome. Okay. So thank you all. I'm so thrilled to be with you this evening. For most of you, I really appreciate it. You're working overtime. It's 5 o'clock here in Montana, which is what we call the hour when caffeine tops out and chocolate checks in. And what it really means is that it's 5 o'clock somewhere, and we all know what to do with that. So for those of you who have passed the 5 o'clock hour, go for it. Save one for me. For those of you who don't know me, I was the notary administrator for the Montana Secretary of State's office for 20 years. I served under 5 different secretaries. When I started, I had no experience or knowledge of notary law or practice, but I quickly learned from answering the phones that notary practice was complicated and extremely situation dependent. Within about 3 months of starting my job, I realized that our office was not providing notaries with the information and the resources that they needed. So I started early on, about 3 months into my job, I wrote the first ever Montana Notary Public Handbook. When I left, we were in the 17th edition. So it evolved over the years as my knowledge and experience grew. About 2 years after I did the handbook, I convinced our chief legal officer to present a training class to a group of local paralegals that were asking for some training in notary. Well, boy, did that open the floodgates. From those 2 experiences, the handbook and the training, I learned 2 absolute truths about notaries public. First of all, notaries want to know what they're doing, and they want to do it right. Virtually everything I've done since then and continue to do is a result of knowing those 2 fundamental principles. Since I retired at the end of last year, I've been involved with 2 projects. First is reactivating the Montana Notary Guild, which is a state notary association primarily focused on providing in-person notary training and education and personalized support for Montana's notaries. The other project is the one I'm here to talk to you about tonight, and that is the American Guild of Notaries Public, which is a totally unique project that's designed to raise the quality, professionalism, stature, and the prestige of the notary office in the United States and the notaries who perform those notarizations. This is a big job, but it's up to all of us to do it, and we're going to get going here. I'm going to start today by telling you a story from whisper to symphony, the notary renaissance. It's a tale of how our quiet, careful craft is stepping from the pages of history back onto center stage. The Whisper, Chapter 1, Once Upon a Signature, if you will. Put on your Indiana Jones hats for a minute. Going back to ancient civilizations, thousands of years ago, anthropologists have learned that the need for chronicling important transactions has been fundamental to the growth, maturation, and success of a society. Even before written languages developed, there are artifacts like cave paintings that celebrate successful hunting seasons or tell stories of war, famines, harsh weather that confirm for us that some kind of permanent record was a fundamental part of a culture's identity. It was the need for accurately documenting the ordinary, regular transactions that laid the groundwork for the eventual evolution of what is now the notary public. As communities got more sophisticated and larger, the Sumerians, the Egyptians, even the Romans advanced the role of preserving records of official transactions to new levels. These scribes were a significant part of the governing structure in those societies. As the populations grew, particularly in Europe, cities sprang up, economies became more market-centered, and as trade expanded in the far reaches of Africa and Asia, the role of a notarius became more powerful and respected throughout the Western world. By the Middle Ages, professional guilds had grown to prominence as a way to control and regulate commerce for many professions and trades. Unlike the scribes of old, medieval notaries had legal authority, often granted by direct appointments from kings, popes, emperors, or through membership in notary guilds. Notary guilds were prominent in most European countries. They provided training and certification for notaries, establishing standards of practice and ensuring quality work by the notary guild members. The notary guilds regulated every facet of the notary profession from the 11th through the 14th centuries. They decided what notaries could and could not do, how much they could charge, where they could practice their craft. Does all of this sound a little familiar to anyone? The guilds eventually evolved to be focused less on managing their members and more on educating those who wanted to practice the craft. Over time, the guilds evolved into formal educational institutions. The notary guild halls eventually became known as societies or collegia, which began to offer structured curricula and degrees in notarial law. This shift further professionalized the notaries in Europe. Master notaries became the professors at places like the Notary College at Oxford University. Who knew? Notaries had come a long way, baby. But they say nothing is forever. And that's certainly true of the office of the notary public. As a profession, in some ways, we are now practically ignored. were necessary functionaries, but whatever influence, power, and respect was reached in the 14th century was pretty much gone by the late 19th century in America. There were several factors that contributed to the decline of our profession. First of all, expansion into the New World. Not that notaries didn't make the trip across the pond. Hey, we all know. There were notaries with Columbus in 1492 and later on the Mayflower when it hit the shores of Plymouth Rock. But countries in the New World, especially the United States, created new laws, including our notary laws, to fit the unique demands of our country. Then along came the Industrial Revolution, the transformation from an agrarian society to an urban one, and westward expansion, which created all sorts of opportunities for change. One of the most significant developments was the implementation of universal public education. As the general population became more educated and able to read, understand, and even draft their own documents, agreements, contracts, and such, the less the services of the notary public were required. In addition, the role of lawyers became much more prominent in the United States. As such, the position of the notary was diminished. Somewhere along the line, American notaries public lost the prestige, the respect, the authority, and the power that had historically been inherent in the profession. Notaries went from being the notary to just a notary. We became who's, like the residents of Whoville. We didn't go away, but nobody was listening to us. We had somehow lost our voice. When I started doing training from the Montana SOS office in about 2007, I used to start my classes by asking everyone, why did you become a notary? And I think it'll be fun to see just how this group was motivated to obtain your first commission. So let's try a little exercise. Now, Marcy said she'd help because the way my screen's working tonight, I can't see the chat.
I will help.
I need all of you to be participating in this. I'm going to divide you up, so listen carefully to what we're going to do. Get ready to put your answer in the chat. Group 1, if you got your first commission before 2005, so more than 20 years ago, put a 1 in the chat if you became a notary because your real job required it. Put a 2 in the chat if you chose to become a notary for some other reason, like you were volunteering for your church, or your mom was a notary and you wanted to be one, or you just wanted to have one of those cool little squeezy things. Whatever it is, put a 1 or a 2 in the chat box. We'll wait for just a second here.
We have a lot of 2s.
A lot of 2s. Oh, that's a surprise.
Yeah, we have 1s, but I think we have more 2s than 1s.
Okay. Okay. Get everybody who's been around for 20 years?
I think I think 2s have won it.
2s have won it. Okay. That's a surprise to me because most of the notaries that I worked with, 20 years ago, most of them became notaries because their job required it. The boss said, hey, guess what? You need to be a notary. So it's a little different than what I expected. This is good information. So let's move on to group 2 then. Let's see what happened. If you became a notary between 2005 and 2015, so 10 to 20 years ago, put a 1 in the chat if you became a notary because your job required it. 2 if it was your choice to become a notary for whatever reason, or a 3 if you became a notary full or part-time to augment or earn an income. Okay, so we're adding that to it. Okay, because your job required it, because you wanted to, or because you wanted to use the income that a notary commission could provide.
We've got some 2s, 3s, a few more 3s than 2s.
Okay, no ones?
I think I have 1 1, 2 1s.
2 ones. Okay, this is good.
I'm going to say mostly 3s and 2s, and it's let's see, 1, 2.
Okay,
I have 5 2s and 4 3s.
okay. Well, let's go to group 3 then. If you became a notary between 2015 and 2020, so between 5 and 10 years ago, same thing. Put a 1 in the chat if you became a notary because your job required it. If you chose 2, if you chose to become a notary for whatever reason, or 3 if you became a notary to earn an income, full or part-time, either of those.
I have 2 3s, 3 3s, 4 3s,
Mostly 3s.
1 1 2. I think 3s have won this group.
This does not surprise me. And in group 4, I will actually be surprised in group 4 if we have any 1s or 2s. So group 4, if you obtained your first commission after 2020, so less than 5 years ago, 5 years or less, put a 1 in the chat if you became a notary because your W-2 job required you to, a 2 if you chose for whatever other reason to become a notary, or a 3 if you were becoming a notary because of the opportunities to be an entrepreneurial notary.
Twos and 3s. I have a 1. I had 1 1.
Okay, cool.
2s and 3s.
2s and 3s. That's pretty much what I figured. And I think we have to be honest here. This group is probably not quite as representative of the universe of notaries as some, partially given to, Friday after 5 o'clock. In most parts of the country, you're not going to get a lot of people who are W-2 employees to be part of a group like this. But nonetheless, I think the makeup of the notary universe has definitely changed from predominantly where notary was an addition to your regular duties at your full-time job. And now really what we're seeing very much is that the notary entrepreneur is very much an element of our profession. And that's created a whole new universe for us. The question is why? I submit that the driving force behind this change is technology. IPEN, RON, REN, e-apostilles, mobile IDs. Notaries have stepped out from behind the desks and the counters and into companies, living rooms, hospitals, and Zoom rooms. The world started asking new questions about the old ways of doing things, and notaries have answered by adjusting, pivoting, and rising to the challenge. The entrepreneurial notary. Look at you. You've become so much more. You're marketeers, educators, consultants, CEOs of growing, thriving businesses. Where notaries used to just sign and stamp, now you brand, you network, you teach, you troubleshoot technology, and you occasionally battle Google Forms like gladiators. The whisper is starting to become a voice. The rise of the entrepreneur notary is changing expectations by all the parties involved, but especially by the notaries. At this point, notaries know that what they do is important and valuable and deserving of respect, and they want it. That's a good thing. Notaries have found that the Notary Commission opens doors to other financial opportunities that complement your notary skills. We're seeing a wide variety of adjunct opportunities as part of the notary business. Notaries now are demanding access to more information, more training. They know what they don't know, and they want to know it. You're also starting to demand, at least asking, for more support from your commissioning authorities. You want them to be more responsive to your need for timely, accurate resources and support. It really isn't acceptable when you can't learn about new laws, new rules in a timely and accurate fashion. Finally, notaries are demanding a seat at the table. You want a voice. You want to be part of the legislative and administrative processes that govern your profession. You want more than crumbs or whatever someone else thinks you are entitled to. As someone once said, if you aren't at the table, you're probably on the menu. And today's notaries are not willing to be the hors d'oeuvres. At the end of the day, many of us believe it's time that the notary profession regains the respect, the credibility that it had a long time ago. And to get there, we had to take a hard look at where we are. This is what we found. The state of the notary profession in the United States of America in 2025. First of all, we looked at the knowledge and skill level of the American notary. And what we found is we don't know. Even though we're seeing notary training becoming more prevalent in more states, testing remains in a minority of cases, and yet the testing tends to be very elementary. It really doesn't evaluate notary skills and knowledge, and it doesn't look at the practice of notary very well. It tends to focus on the processes for becoming a notary or the penalties for doing it wrong. So at the end of the day, there's no way really to tell how proficient most notaries are. You know, we've got some great notaries out there. Not saying that the notaries aren't knowledgeable. We're saying that people don't know how knowledgeable that they are. Okay? We also know that for a number of notaries, their knowledge and skill level is not sufficient for the credible performance of some of the notarial acts that they're doing or being asked to do. In some states, the requirements are pretty cut and dried and easy. They're limited to a few notary acts. In other states, there are a lot of them. And yet the basic education that occurs in most states just doesn't provide sufficient information for notaries. There's no established structure or safety net to protect notaries as they learn and mature in the profession. When a commission is granted, A notary is cast to the fates and hopefully survives. That's not acceptable, and we have to change that. We also looked at the perception of the role of notaries in American society. And what we found is it's frequently very negative and dismissive. It's that just a notary attitude, that the job's so simple that anyone can do it, because after all we do is sign and stamp and maybe look at an ID. We know that's not true, but the public at large does not. The importance of the notarial office has degraded over the years. We get lip service about our important role in preventing fraud, right? But that's somehow and sometimes a hollow message. For example, last January, the Montana legislature was considering a bill to eliminate required notarization on motor vehicle titles. The proponents of that bill, the Department of Justice, the Motor Vehicle Division, our financial institutions, credit unions and banks, auto dealers, they were all pushing this bill, and they were assuring the legislators that, don't worry, it's not a problem. There really isn't that much fraud going on. All of them were conveniently ignoring the fact that perhaps the reason there wasn't much fraud occurring was because notaries were stopping it before it happened. We weren't being given credit for what we were doing and expected to do. The third thing we found out is that government established standards and requirements tend to be really low. It's what I call the minimum daily requirements. The standards vary widely across the country. There's no uniformity. Most importantly, the ability of the public to evaluate the quality and the service that they receive is almost negligent. They don't know what they don't know. So they don't know if what they get is what they need. And that's just not acceptable. More than anything else, what we are rediscovering is the need for notaries to reassume their roles as the guardians of trust and authenticity. And that calls for a whole new environment for the profession. Enter our new voice, the American Guild of Notaries Public. A modern guild for a modern craft. Historically, guilds protected standards, mentored artisans, and honored mastery. And that's our blueprint for the future. What we have is a metaphorical fixer-upper. At the American Guild of Notaries Public, we plan to turn it into the grand structure of the 21st century notary profession that it deserves. The American Guild of Notaries Public is a nonprofit organization. It's a unique concept, and we intend to be able to address the idea of identifying qualified, knowledgeable, reliable, credible notaries. So let me tell you a little bit about what we're doing and how we're going to do it. First of all, our mission, the American Guild of Notary Public, is dedicated to adopting and promoting the highest national standards for the Office of Notaries Public. Get some uniformity in. The standards that our board is adopting are applicable across the United States. They don't conflict with any state laws, but they hold notaries to a higher level of accountability for doing the right thing in accordance with their state law. We also need to be able to convey those standards to commissioning authorities, to the public, and to notaries, so that people recognize what it means to have an AGNP credential. It means you can trust that the notary knows what they're doing. And then we want to be able to publicly identify those notaries whose dedication, commitment, skills, and knowledge have earned them the recognition as the guardians of trust and authenticity. For that, we've created badges that'll be very easy for people to recognize and see who is an AGNP credentialed notary. Our goal as the organization is first and foremost to make sure that AGNP credentialed notaries are correctly perceived as being knowledgeable, professional, and trustworthy. That's our main goal. Secondly, we want to make sure that notary employers and those who contract with our notaries recognize AGNP credentialed notaries as preferred hires, and they compensate notaries accordingly. They know what they're getting, they know they're getting a good product, and therefore they're willing to pay for it. Third, we want to start making such a difference that the general public request the services of an AGNP credentialed notary for any notary transaction. You know, maybe they aren't going to be satisfied with running to the UPS store and getting some kid who is working 2 or 3 jobs, and one of them happens to be behind the counter at UPS, had to become a notary and really has not had the time or the commitment to the profession that will make them as knowledgeable and trustworthy as they ought to be. Our solution to addressing the issues that we identified is, first of all, we have created a credentialing program for notaries. I've referred to that already. And it consists of an objective evaluation of the knowledge, skills, and experience of the notary who applies to become a member. We've created 4 tiers of competency that are based on the old guild model from the Middle Ages. And I'll show you a little bit more about that in a minute. We've also adopted standards of practice and committed to ongoing education and performance as a fundamental requirement for credentialing. Secondly, and this is as important, we have to educate the public about what is the proper role, duty, and purpose of a notary, and then emphasize the importance of using a qualified AGNP credentialed notary. Those go together. Thirdly, we also have to outreach to key constituency to develop that demand for a credentialed notary. So we're working with industry verticals, folks like people at the American Land Title Association, Mortgage Bankers Association, some of the healthcare organizations, working with them to make sure that we're incorporating the needs that they have for the notaries and making sure that they know we're providing that. We're also working with affiliate organizations and associations to help promote the benefits of credentialed notary to their constituencies. We have what we call the 4 E's of components of the credentialing experience. First of all, we evaluate an applicant's experience. We verify their status as a current notary in good standing. We review their history. We ask them to tell us, what have they been doing? What kinds of things, what types of work they're doing, any certifications they've earned, and what services they're offering. We also require that all credentialed notaries will have a current national background check, and we do reserve the right to do reference checks for our notaries. We also will be requiring all notaries to carry to be bonded and carry insurance that is commensurate with the work that they're doing. Second component is the examination. And I know some of you on this call, I don't see who's there, but I suspect there may be one or two people that are part of the beta test group. And our examination is really pretty hard. It's comprehensive. And what I'm finding as I'm getting results back from people is that it really is giving us a very, very good picture of a notary's skills and knowledge, as well as their attitude. Are they approaching the job, with the intent of how can I make this happen? How can I accommodate the customer's requests? Or are they, just really kind of, falling back on, well, that isn't within my purview. I don't know how to do that. I don't have to do that. So, we're seeing stuff from that examination that we had hoped we would, and indeed we are finding that. Then we go into the evaluation, and that's a case of putting the pieces together, looking at the experience, looking at the results of the answers to the examination, measuring them against the standards that we've adopted and the benchmarks for each tier of the credentialing process, so that we can fairly evaluate where they are on the spectrum. Our final E is education. And in this one, we're kind of unique in that a lot of the other industries that are working towards credentialing their applicants, they require a certain amount of education before becoming a member of the program or applying for the program. Our position here is we'll take you before you get some wrong information and work with you to get it right from the very get-go. So as long as you've got a current commission, you are eligible for membership in the Guild. But going forward, we are going to require at least 6 hours of continuing education every year. 50% of that has to be focused on the notary office. We know, there's lots of education out there on, social media skills and marketing efforts and, the different peripherals that you can use as part of your business. But at AGMP, we're looking at the notary side of things. So at least 3 hours a year has to be very focused on notary education. If you don't keep that up, you will lose your credential. So kind of different from some of the other industries that we've seen out there. But I think it works in the notary profession. As I mentioned, we have 4 tiers, starting with the apprentice level. And roughly we're figuring somebody is an apprentice until they have maybe one commission term under their belt. That's not a hard and fast rule. We're taking the whole picture before we decide. But the apprenticeship is when you learn, when you become proficient, when you get that skill level up there to where it is. And quite frankly, an awful lot of the requests that are given to notaries, or asked of notaries, fall into the scope that an apprentice can do quite well. Second one is the professional. And quite frankly, I think that's where most of us belong. This is somebody who's very competent, very knowledgeable, very active in the profession. You're providing notary services as your major use for your commission, actually doing notarial work. Third is the expert. Again, somebody who's very knowledgeable, very proficient, very experienced. And they're doing a lot more outreach, mentorship kind of thing, advising, less experienced notaries. And finally, the master notary. And I know there's a feeling out there that everybody wants to be the master because that's the best. And I would submit, again, going back to the idea of the old guild, the master is the person who primarily provides education. So we're looking at, the master's being somebody who, about 50% or more of their work in the notary field is teaching or training. It doesn't mean that a master is necessarily more knowledgeable or more proficient or whatever, but it means that they're focused on training and educating those who are coming up. So, it all makes sense now. We're just, as I mentioned before, we have our beta test candidates are at the deadline for turning in their examinations. So, and we've gotten a few already. I as I said, I'm learning a lot now that we're actually seeing results here, but it's gratifying. I'm seeing some more information than I ever expected. So I think the outcomes are going to be much more positive than I initially thought. And I'm anxious to see how the end result looks. We expect to be able to announce the results of our first group of notary candidates at the end of the year. In fact, I'm kind of working on how we can do a virtual graduation ceremony, maybe on New Year's Eve. So stay tuned for that, particularly those of you here who are part of the program already. Okay, so why should you become a credentialed notary? What does the benefit to you? First and foremost, it's because you can stand out from the crowd as a notary. People will be able to tell instantaneously that you're a notary who knows what you're doing. You've got the skills, you've got the knowledge, you've demonstrated proficiency. Again, employer and client trust means that somebody who hires you knows that you are minimizing their risk. It's not just all about you. It's about, at the banks, at the lawyers. They know that when they turn their clients and customers over to you, that they'll be taken care of and it won't come back on them. We provide a community and mentorship. You get to network and learn from the best of the best. That's who is part of this organization. And you absolutely become part of that community. You get those resources. You get recognition and referrals. I mean, it's very pragmatic here. You're going to get visibility with potential clients and individuals outside of your notary circle. The Guild is doing outreach, as I mentioned before, to verticals, to other industries, to other associations. We will have, opportunities to make referrals directly. As a credentialed notary, you will be listed on our website, and people who come looking for qualified notaries will be able to find you through that way. You will also, of course, be able to use your badge on your own website and in your own marketing materials. And it should, certainly drive business to you. We will be providing real-world resources that save time, money, and prevent errors. We've got a couple of good things in the works, tools that will make your job easier and better. Okay, so we started out here with a whisper, and we've built up, and now we're kind of getting into the symphony part of this. I told you earlier that one of the key pillars of the project is to work with affiliates and partners to advance our common cause. Toward that end, we have partnered with the Council of State Notary Associations. CSNA is a coalition of organizations and networks that are banding together to support local notaries to be more confident, more effective, and more proactive. You'll notice the group so far. It's about 16 states or locals are represented, And again, because the nature of our industry or any industry is not just national in scope, but it's also local. If we're going to make a difference in your own state in changing your laws or the administrative rules, having your local association is really going to be one of the most effective tools that you'll be able to use. So Marcy is the brains and the work behind putting this group together. We can't thank her enough for that. But for those of you who do not see your state listed on this group, if you know of one, please let us know. If you don't, maybe you might be willing to launch a group, because it's having, we've got great support at the national level from National Notary Association, the American Society of Notaries. They're all there, certainly working at that higher level, and they can, help us at that level. But so often when you're wanting to change the laws or the rules, working with the legislature, competent authority, you actually need to be working at ground level. And that's what your state networks and associations can do for you. So AGNP is very much pleased and honored to be able to work with CSNA and working at that level to help promote the notary office. So moving on, because I want to leave some time for questions. At the end of the day, this is about you and about letting you stand out and shine in the crowd. Consider this your invitation to be part of a new renaissance. If you join the AMPA and earn your credential, you can make sure that the world hears a proud symphony of America's notaries public well into the next century. Please, please help us return the grandeur, the prestige, the credibility, and the honor to the Office of Notary Public. You all deserve it. You're great. We appreciate you and appreciate what you're doing. And we're hoping that this becomes the stage from which you can really shine. Thank you. If you have any questions, I think we have a few minutes left.
We do have a couple of minutes. Yeah, so someone wants to know, is the education hours in the guild, education hours in the guild, or can we use other places? I think they're asking about the training, and the guild doesn't provide any training, right? That's not what you are. You are not
right.
a training course. So your training, go ahead.
Oh, we will be a resource to, make it available to you, but the training will be provided by, people who have been accredited, basically. So it kind of addresses that issue of, gee, I don't know if this training is good or not. You can be assured if it's on our list, it's good, it's qualified, it meets the standards, but the guild itself does not provide the training. Right.
Perfect. So your training converts. So just don't think that this is another training program. That's not what this is. We want you to assume that you're already getting good training from wherever you already got good training. Right.
Right. And you will continue to get good training. That's one of the differences as I was doing research for all of this. Most of the other professions that are trying to get into some kind of credentialing, because we're not unique in the fact that people don't know the good guys from the not quite so good guys. That most of the other professions don't have any kind of training out there. We have tons of training. We have some incredible trainers out there. So this is a way that you can be sure that you're getting qualified quality training. But we aren't providing it directly. Absolutely not.
So you will have at some point credentialed training programs that have also come to you and shown you what they're doing, and then that will be a great referral for those who are looking for additional training. Lori's group
Right,
will be reviewing them and putting that on there. What is the
right.
cost, Lori, to join the guild?
The cost to join the guild is $50 per year. And we're not going to get rich on this. This is a volunteer type organization. We are a 501c6 nonprofit. Not that we won't be raising money, because we do have to get qualified people, and after a while, people don't work for nothing. But our whole focus is not on, becoming a rich nonprofit. We're looking at honestly keeping our focus on the notaries and doing what we can to make them the best they can be. So $50 a year. It will be ongoing. You'll have to be a member to keep your badge. I mean, there is a certain amount of obligation on your part. So,
and then can we talk about the test for a quick minute? What is
sure.
the style of the exam? What is the anticipated time frame to take the exam? Do you need to, once you pass the exam is how you become a member of the guild. So just to make sure that that's clear.
Yeah. Okay. Couple of things, and understand this is a whole new thing. So we've been inventing the wheel. The exam that we've issued to our beta test group, if you will, I think was about 70 questions. I kind of lost count. They were difficult, and part of what we've learned already is probably that was too much, and a lot of it really wasn't telling us what we needed to know. So we're already going back and modifying that. But it's not going to ever be an easy test. We need to know what you know, where you are on a spectrum. So it's primarily essay, short answer, but we want to know some pretty basic stuff too. So it will always be a combination. It's not going to be multiple guesses and yes or true or false, yes or no kind of questions. We want to know what you know, but we'll get it done. Ideally, in the world out there of credentialing thing, it seems like the test should be taking between 4 and 6 hours, and so that's what we're gearing for. I think we probably went a little over that for most people. Although the test is also geared, for state specific. So if, for example, you're in a state that hasn't implemented RON yet, you don't have to even worry about the RON questions because that doesn't apply to you. So, it's pretty flexible, and it will continue to grow and be perfected. You don't generally get everything 100% right the first time you try. So we're working on that. But I've been also very astounded at how much I can learn, kind of reading between the lines of the answer. It's not just the answer itself. I've also learned that there are people who think AI has all the answers, and that doesn't happen. So, a learning experience for us as well as for the candidate.
Lori, now can people sign up now, or are you just like, when can they start to sign up?
Okay. At this point, our beta test group is fixed, but after this beta test group, we're going on a regular basis. You don't have to be part of a group to sign up. My anticipation is, if you want to sign up, give me until December before you start again, because I've got a lot to do in the next couple of weeks. But you can join up, and we'll start sending out the information that you need for your dossier, and putting things together and sending out the exam probably after the first of the year for the next people who join up. But we'll process on an ongoing basis after this. It won't be in a group.
And they can sign up at your website, right? And I just want to make sure there's
Yeah.
a little typo in here, but it is www.americannotaryguild.org. So just
Right.
swap the N and the A. It's American. You can
Oh,
go there and sign up.
Oh, American, yeah.
And then let's see, we can take probably one more question. You can stop and start the exam. I've seen the exam. You're probably going to have to stop and start. You'll never get through it all in
Absolutely.
one sitting. So there's no
Yeah,
time frame.
that,
We don't have a time frame on that, right, Lori? However long it takes
no,
them is however long it
no,
takes, right?
exactly. The idea being you're all busy and have other things to do so you can work on this. We started out, thinking we could do this in Google Forms. That doesn't work. What's really working the best for people is I send them a Word document, got the questions, and they put the answers in, just be sure and save your work, and then send it back to me as a PDF. And that works best for, reviewing it and grading it, sharing the answers as I need to with the Board of Governors, with the recommendations. And, it, we didn't really have to make it as hard as we did the first time. So we
And then
are.
someone wants to know, if a person joins and then misses renewing 1 year, do they have to take the exam again when they renew again?
We haven't answered all those questions, to be honest. The idea is if you let your credential expire, you really do have to re-credential. But if it's like you miss for 30 or 60 days, that doesn't make sense to make you start. So at this point, that's a question we're going to have to address. And it depends on, what, if you've been taking the test or the training all along and you're pretty up to date on that, and it was just you didn't renew right away. I think let's get real here. This is not meant to be, that kind of a strict thing. But we're going to have to make some rules. I mean, if you drop your credentials for 6-8 months, yeah, we need to know, where you are now. Well, maybe you've gotten better, maybe you're the same. We don't know. So we're going to, I guess we're going to have to burn that bridge though when we come to it.
All right, last question, and then we will conclude. Is there a deal to sign up by November 30th?
No, at this point, the deal we had for the people who volunteered initially was $50 really covered their 2026 dues. So anybody who signed up, but going forward, $50 a year. Now, if you sign up like between now and the end of the year, that really is dues for next year, because I'm not going to get that much done in terms of getting you credentialed. Certainly you won't get credentialed before the end of the year at this point. So we'll call it a 2026 start date at this point.
Excellent. So I want to just say that this is recorded. It'll be posted on our YouTube channel. So if you missed some of it or you want to go back again, it will be there for you. We'll send out a link when it's ready. Lori just loves getting emails from everyone. If you really do have a question about the Guild, though, reach out to her. She's super available, and this is an opportunity to get in on the ground floor of something which we think really does benefit you as the notary, certainly. Thank you all for joining us. Lori, thank you so much for telling us all about your new adventure. We're really excited for you. We can't wait to see where it goes.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and thank you for sharing your screen and your podium with me. I appreciate it a lot.
Anytime.
Thanks,
all right. Oh, yes. Everybody, thank you all for joining. We have one more to go for today, and then the rest for tomorrow. I'll see you in the next one, maybe, or if not, I hope you have a great rest of your night, a wonderful weekend. Thank you all. I'm so appreciative of the time that you spent with us here today, and I hope you all got some really good information. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Lori. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.